And welcome to Fantasy Football with Corey and Kyle. Let's talk about Brock Bowers going to Las Vegas. But before we get into that, make sure you like this video and subscribe to our channel to get more videos just like this one to help win your league. All right, Kyle, let's get into some Brock Bowers talk. What do you think about him going to the Raiders in the draft?
So Brock Bowers was one of my favorite rookies coming into this draft. I mean, me and you were talking rookies 2 months ago, and I was like, dude, as of right now, Bowers is 1 or 2 on my list. Like, I love him. He's such a talent. Nobody saw the Raiders picking him, though. And I got to say I'm not a fan because I was also a fan of Michael Mayer, who they just drafted last year, who going into that draft, a lot of people had as the number 1 tight end. You know, Laporta, Kincaid also ended up being really, really good. So any of those top 3, but you know, to get a top tight end in back-to-back drafts, it feels like they're going to use him in very different ways. And I think the reason for that is like Mayer was a good receiver, but he was a better, I feel like, Captain even talked about this on the draft live. Like, he was a really, really good blocker. They may try to use him more in that role and bring in Bowers as more of a pure pass catcher, which he's not going to have a lot of competition for targets there. So, I don't know. It'll be interesting. I'm not as excited about it as if he'd landed with, say, the Chargers or somewhere like that, which is what everybody was hoping for in the fantasy world, right?
Yeah.
So I see a little bit of a post-injury Mayer's Knox and Bowers is Kincaid in this offense kind of a thing. I think Mayer will still hold some value and have a handful of looks. I think Bowers is going to be your fantasy guy.
Hey, quick, before I get into my analysis, I just want to invite everyone over to sign up for Underdog Fantasy and use code FFAdvice when signing up, and they'll double your deposit. So if you put in $100, they'll double it and make it $200. And then you can use that toward drafts and come draft with us. We're going to do a bunch of best ball drafts, and they're starting form drafting and stuff. I don't want to wait for drafts anymore. I've already started doing this because I love drafting, right? I can't wait to draft. And now the NFL draft has happened, so the rookies are in there. We know where their positions are at. So it's really fun. Come join us and have some fun. Comment in this video if you want to come draft with us, and we'll invite you, and we'll go draft one night and have some fun. All right, so my thoughts on this. I know we've talked about Mayer being held up because he's such a better blocker and whatnot. But I know we've also talked about Brock Bowers not being your typical tight end, right? He's like a huge wide receiver. And I could, and of course, right now we're guessing, right? We're just guessing how.
Yeah.
But Bowers is versatile, right? They can split him out a little bit, and Mayer can still stay in that tight end role. I do agree. I think he'll be blocking more. You know, of course, Bowers is going to be the star there. But what I hate about this landing spot is that he'll still have to share some of that role with Mayer. Yeah. And so that's really disappointing because Mayer is still good. There's still a reason why they took him. There's a reason why he was a top tight end in last year's draft, right? So the one good thing that both of them have going for them is there's not a lot of other receiving targets like on that team, right? You've got Devontae Adams and then Jacoby Myers. I mean, okay. And their quarterback game is interesting. Like, and usually a lesser quarterback kind of leans on tight ends a little more. So there's some advantages there for Bowers, I guess. But I totally agree. His draft value has dropped. Whereas I was seeing him as number 2 draft pick, you know, the 102 in fantasy leagues. The lowest I had him is at 104. Now I could see him dropping even further than that because his landing spot just isn't ideal, and that's disappointing.
Yeah, it is disappointing. And, I agree with you. There's not a lot of other receiving options there after Adams. Jacoby Myers had a pretty good fantasy year last year, but I think it was just a result of the fact that there was nobody else there after Adams.
Right.
He's never been that stud receiver. So I definitely think Bowers becomes second in that pecking order. They do have Minshew at QB now, but he didn't exactly hit the tight end a ton when he was in Indy last year either. So I don't know what to expect there 100%. I also agree with you. I think his draft stock slid a little bit. I'm probably taking him in the probably high second half of the first round now. I don't think you can take him in the top half of the first round anymore. He's still going to be a tremendous talent, but it's not going to be quite as robust as we thought initially.
Yeah, I just think there's some other guys that landed in better situations and kind of jumped him in that draft.
Yep, agreed.